In today's video, I want to talk about DWM. I streamed a suckless Debian install a little while back where I installed DWM, ST, and DMENU. And in that stream, I just pulled down my configs from GitHub, but didn't really go over the steps to customize DWM. So today I want to do just that. I will download DWM straight from the suckless website, maybe apply a patch or two over the course of the video, and install software and theme and do that kind of thing. But the goal of this video is really to just go over the initial install and customizations that I like to do in DWM on Debian. So in this video, I'm going to be using my stolen and customized build of ST and the stock DMENU, because I want this video to just be about DWM. Because if I were using stock everything, it would kind of be all over the place. So let's get started. So in our virtual machine, I have Debian Buster installed with no desktop environment, so we're just booted to a TTY. I've already got a lot of the software installed that we're going to need, but I'm just kind of give you the Cliff's Notes so you don't have to actually watch me install it. I like to install Git to get my personal dot files, and we're going to need a text editor, X server. I like to install the Linux headers, the firmware, Linux firmware free, Mesa utils, wget, curl, build essential, and if you want i3 lock or slock or whatever, image magic, you can use fat or nitrogen for setting your wallpapers. And I'm going to install a Unicode font, font awesome. Let's do sudo apt install git vim xorg x server -xorg and Linux headers 4.19-0-9-AMD64, and we're going to do firmware Linux free. Let's do Mesa utils, wget, curl, build essential. I like i3 lock, but I'm probably not going to use it in this particular video. But anyway, it's going to be installed anyway. Image magic. I like to use feh, and fonts, font awesome. Then you can just run that and see I've already got all that installed. And if I run an ls, I'm going to actually remove dwm.tar.gz, and you see I have a dot files in a suckless folder. So if I cd into suckless, you're going to see that all I have is my build of ST in here. So I have no desktop environment at all right now. So if I clear the screen and I say wget https://dwm/dwm-6.2.tar.gz. I hit enter here, it pulls it right down, and there I have my DWM 6.2 tar file. So I want to untar this, so tar-xzf DWM 6.2 tar.gz. And now I have a DWM 6.2 folder. So I'm going to move that into my suckless folder. There we go. Now I'm going to make a few directories, because if I run ls, you see I just have dot files and suckless. And for my setup to work properly with my personal dot files, I'm going to need a few folders. And I'm just going to make it a little more usable anyway. So mkdir pictures, downloads, documents, videos, bin, and .config. Okay, so now that I've got everything downloaded and I got my folders made, I'm going to CD into my dot files and get some stuff moved around so I can actually have pictures in my wallpapers directory and that kind of thing. So CD into dot files. And here I have several scripts, so I'm going to put those in my bin directory. So chmod plus X. We're going to do bmenu debinfo, which is my custom screen fetcher. If you haven't seen that video about how I made that, I'll put a link up to it about now. DWM bar, DWM icon bar, fabeg, and I can also do hush, which is volume lower, and then lock, which is a screen lock, louder, which is volume increase. PMenu is actually what I'm using instead of quit, and that's good. And that way it'll just give me a DMENU menu at the top of the screen to log out. So it's just an added layer. So if I hit my key binding to quit, it's going to pop that up for an added layer. Quieter, which is volume lower. Let's see, ref bar, shuff man. So that's my man page shuffler. Let's see, wall for randomly selecting a wallpaper, and weather.sh. So now all those are executable, as you can tell by the color change. So now let's move those to home/bin. And they're gone. Now I want to move wallpapers to home/pictures. And I want to cat my X resources to home/.x. Now I want to cat that into home/.x defaults. I do it into X defaults because I don't like typing the xrdb command. And now I want to cat my bash aliases into home/.bashrc. And I want to move my bookmarks into home/.config. And that should be about all I got to do there. All right, so now let's actually build the software. So if I CD into Suckless, you'll see I have DWM 6.2 and ST. So if I go into the DWM folder, if I try to run make right now, it's probably going to fail. And if you don't have any of the dependencies installed, it's probably going to fail. So the things that you have to install on Debian to get DWM compiled, you're going to need to do sudo apt install libxft-dev libzenorama-dev and libx11-dev. And I've actually already got those installed, but those are the three libraries you're going to need to have installed when you compile DWM. So if I clear the screen and I just run make, and see it made just fine, and it gave me a binary here. It's just a DWM, executable or binary or whatever. And every time you run that packet or run make, it's going to refresh that. So I don't want to move it out of this folder. I'm just going to symlink it to my bin directory and have it in my path. So what I want to do is actually ln-sf home/suckless DWM 6.2 DWM and symlink that to home/bin/DWM. We'll go back a level and then CD into our ST directory. And now we can run make here. And that made just fine. So let's run, let's symlink these two files as well. ln-sf home/suckless/st/st into home/bin/st. And let's do st dash copy out into bin/st dash copy out. And now let's reboot. Oh, I didn't put anything in my xinitrc. So let's vim.xinitrc. I got ahead of myself. So let's do exec DWM. Now let's run start x. And you see we have DWM installed, but it is bare bones and stock. Now you're going to need to know a few of the default key bindings. If you want to get a terminal up, the mod key is Alt. So you want to do Alt, Shift, and Enter. And that's going to give you your terminal. And you see my fonts are a little bit weird. So I want to fix that. CD into suckless and ST. And now let's vim config.h. That's much better. And now I can scale this on up so everybody can see. Now, if you want to get some kind of transparency, you can do sudo apt install Compton. And if you want to set your background, and you can see we have wallpaper. Now let me fix the resolution because I don't like this. So I foresee this being an issue, so I'm gonna go ahead and write a script called resolution to fix my resolution in this VM. So I'm gonna make this a little bigger so everybody can see. Let's do vim resolution, and let's say xrender-s 1920 by 1200. And now we're going to do chmod plus x resolution, and then move that to our bin directory. So let's actually take a look at customizing some stuff in DWM now. Let's cd into suckless and cd into DWM. Now there's a few files in here that get customized when you apply patches, but there's generally only one that you customize when you theme and add key bindings and stuff like that. And that is your config.h. There's just one thing though. From my experience in DWM, when I make my customizations in config.h and then I decide I want to apply a patch, sometimes I have to remove config.h and then run make for the patch to succeed. So what I've started doing is my initial customizations, the stuff that I know I want to keep, like my key bindings and my theme and stuff like that. I'll go ahead and delete config.h and then make my customizations in config.def.h, because config.h is generated every time you run make on DWM. So I'm just going to go ahead and show that real quick. So let's remove config.h and see that it's gone. Now let's vim config.def.h, and let's say we want to put let's say we want to declare another font. We're going to come down here to the static const character fonts, and I'm going to go ahead and set number so I can have line numbers. So that's on the 8th row. Come out outside of the quotation marks, but still inside of the curly brackets, and I'm going to go into insert mode and add a comma. Add another quotation mark, and I'm going to do font awesome size equals 12. And I'm going to go ahead and change this font size to 12 and change the DMENU font size to 12. So here in lines 10 through 14, in the stock config anyway, this is where you customize the colors of DWM. And I'm a big fan of the Dracula theme, so that's what I'm going to use for my theming. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just add a few colors here, run make again, regenerate config.h, log out, log back in, and you'll see the changes. So the first one I need to do is 282A36. This one's going to be the same color. Gray 3. Check my notes. Let's see. 96. B5, B4. This one is D7, D7, D7. And this one is 4D, 4D, 4D. And now, if we come on down this config.def.h, you see that we have our tag names here that we're going to customize in a little bit. And over here in key definitions, you see you have define mod key mod1 mask. And mod1 is generally your alt key. I don't really care for that. I would much prefer having my super key be my mod key. I'm going to change that from mod1 to mod4. And here I'm going to add a key binding in the way that DWM does it here for ST. So I'm going to declare Firefox. So let's say static const char or char star, let's call it web, square brackets, space equals space, curly brackets, and a semicolon. Get back in the curly brackets. I'm going to call this Firefox-ESR. Come outside the quotation marks, but still inside the curly brackets, comma, and then null in all caps. Now I'm going to come down here into my static keys block, the key bindings. We're going to do curly brackets and a comma. Come back inside the curly brackets and do mod key xk underscore w, and that's going to spawn .v space equals space web. And now once I recompile and log out, log in, I'm going to have super and w launch Firefox. And I would much rather have mod and enter instead of mod shift and enter launch my terminal. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to remove this pipe and shift mask. And so just mod and return will launch my terminal. But now, since I did that, I'm going to have a problem. So what I'll have to do here is actually make this mod shift or mod control, mod something, or mod F12. It doesn't matter. It's going to have to be different than mod return. So what I'm going to do is do mod control mask. So now my control enter will run my zoom function. And another thing I don't like, I've been using Spectre WM a really long time, and I have really gotten used to mod X to close a window. So I'm going to make that functionality in DWM. So now so I took mod shift out, and now I'm going to take C, delete that, and add X. So now mod X will be my kill client command. And I want to run, now mod shift Q is going to run quit. I want to change that. I want that to run a spawn command. I want that to run shcmd. That's going to be a shell command, and that's going to run pmenu. So now I was going to write and quit, and I'm going to run make. That's what it was. I had shmcd instead of cmd. So now let's run make. All right, I figured that out because I had the typo and it automatically generated in config.h, but it generated the typo as well. So I had to remove config.h again and then run make. And now I'm getting a warning that quit is defined but not used because I actually removed quit and replaced it with pmenu. So now let's log out. Restart X, and all right, so now let's actually let's go into our wallpapers directory because I want to have a wallpaper when as soon as I log in. And now let's copy the DWM wallpaper into home/.config/wallpaper.png. And now let's actually get out of that. I'm going to fire up DMENU and run fabeg. So that works. If we go in here and let's vim our .x initRC. Let's do Compton, and let's do fabeg and execute DWM. And now let's do that again. And see, now we have a DMENU script running instead of automatically quitting. So we actually have a layer there. And I'm just going to choose log out. We'll start X again. We have a DWM wallpaper. So now let's take a look at customizing our bar up here. So if we continue to make the fonts bigger, let's CD into Suckless and CD into DWM, and then let's remove the config.h again, and then vim config.def.h. And I'm going to need to open a Firefox window, so mod W, that opens on tag 9, So now mod shift 9 will send that to tag 9. So now let's look at the font awesome cheat sheet. Let's increase the font so we can see. And let's say I wanted my first tag to be my terminal. So we're just going to scroll all the way down, and everything's in alphabetical order. So if we go to the T's, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to highlight this, go into insert mode, delete number 1, and do shift and insert. And that's going to give me my terminal icon here at the top. So let's say I wanted Firefox to be on tag 9. So I'm just going to scroll up and we'll find the Firefox icon. And let's say I wanted, I don't know, the Steam icon for my games. We'll copy that and let's send that on number 8. And let's say I wanted an email tag. So that I like the envelope. Let's find an open envelope. Or the closed envelope. That one actually looks a little better to me anyway. And I want that to be on tag 2. And let's find a folder, because I want that to be where PC Man FM goes. This is going to be an open folder. And now let's say I want a picture frame. So let's go, it's going to be P, like a picture, photo, something like that. That'll work. And now highlight 4, delete that, shift and insert. And number 5, let's say I want that to be my music. There it is. I'll copy my music note, highlight 5, delete, shift and insert. And let's say number 6, let's make that my recording one. So let's find a microphone. Copy that, delete, shift and insert. And 7, let's make it, I don't know, let's make it a random one. Let's say, I don't know, Spock. Because why not? So now we have this done. I'm going to close Firefox and let's just :WQ to write and quit. Now let's run make. It made just fine. So mod shift Q to log out. We'll run *X, and now you see we have our icons at the top now. So now let's take a look at the bar on this side. Now the bar on this side is actually done with xset root. So I'm going to make the resolution a little better. And I'm going to fix the wallpaper. So if I run xset root -name and put in quotations, let's say DWM is fun to config. And you see that's actually popped up here. DWM is fun to config. Let's clear this out and let's cd into the bin directory. And you see I actually have 2 different bars. I have a DWM bar and a DWM icon bar. Mainly because they're the same bar. One has icons, one don't. So if we, let's vim the DWM bar. And what we have here is a list of functions. So we have a date function that echoes out the date in the format that I want. The HDD function, which actually does df-h in my home directory, and then prints out what I want and echoes that. Mem is much the same, you know, free-h, then runs awk and prints out in the format that I want. CPU is one that actually I stole from DistroTube because his CPU function here was way better than mine. So I took it. And my package function is PK, it just runs apt list -- installed and then pipes it through wc-l. And that will give me a list of how many packages I have installed on the system. Upgrades will actually run aptitude search with the ~u flag and run wc-l. The main reason I did that is because if I did this with apt, I would never get a 0 when I had no updates. Whereas if I did it with aptitude, it would give me a 0. That's the only reason I used aptitude for that. So to make that work, it does rely on aptitude. So sudo apt install aptitude. And for my VPN, it's actually running IP space A and then greps ton0, because when a VPN is connected on my system anyway, ton0 exists. When it's not connected, ton0 does not exist. So what I did there was I grepped for ton0 and then grepped for inet, and then ran that through wc-l. So then I echoed VPN connections. So if I get a 1 there, my VPN's connected. If I get a 0, it's not. And then I have my volume command, or my volume function, which runs a mixer with the pulse flag to get the master, and then it just echoes out my volume. Kernel just runs uname-sr, and then I have a seg command here to get rid of the -amd64. My weather command is actually running a curl command in my weather.sh, and then it's just reading out of that file that weather.sh puts in. And also the same thing for temp. Now my battery command, I don't even have it on the bar because it's a pretty bare bones battery function, but it does work, and it works fairly decently. But I have that running on my laptop, but it's not here at the moment. So I have a battery and a battery status. And then at the very bottom, or my last function, is just called status, where I echo out CPU, mem, kernel, packages, upgrades, HTD, VPN, volume, and date. I did that so I can just have while true do exit root -name status. Sleep 30 seconds and refresh. So if I want to have this, what I'm going to do is just quit out of that and then vim.xinitrc. Now I'm going to run DWM bar and that's actually a lot cleaner than having the entire function or that entire function list in my xinitrc. I would much rather just have a script and call the script. So now log out, start X, and you see now I have a nice little bar across the top. So I have my CPU usage, my memory, which is actually at 167 megs right now. So that's pretty good. My Linux kernel version, how many packages are on the system, how many upgrades I have, my use amount in my home directory, VPN connections, volume. It's not going to display anything because I don't have anything installed to read that, and my date. But if you wanted to see what it looks like with the icons, let's take a look at that. So pretty much here in my HDD, I have a floppy disk here. I have a server rack here for memory. I have a microchip for CPU. I have a box for packages. I have a circled arrow for upgrades. I have a cog for my VPN. I have a a volume speaker icon for my volume. I have tux for my kernel, and I have a icon for my battery, and that's really about it. And I only have it resting about 10 seconds before it refreshes. So if I swap that out, and let's say and you see now I have icons up here. So now let's take a look at adding some more key bindings. I have I wrote a wallpaper changer script a while back, and I'll link to that video up top if you'd like to see it as well. Or actually, I'll link it down below or up top. One of those, you'll see it. So let's take a look at, let's just run wall. And you see my wallpaper changed behind the terminal. If I do it again, you see I have an automatic wallpaper changer. But I want to have that set up to a key binding. So if I clear the screen, and let's increase the font. And let's cd into suckless again, cd into DWM 6.2, and then let's remove config.h, and then vim config.def.h. Let's come on down, and because I'm the type that I like to have all my shell commands, my key bindings in the same spot. So let's add curly brackets and a comma, and let's do mod key, and let's do control this time. And let's do B, and that's going to spawn shcmd. We'll do brackets, and then inside the brackets we're going to put quotations and call it wall. And now let's add another one. Okay, so now that mod control P is going to give me my bookmarks menu. So let's right and quit that. Let's run make, and that made just fine. So let's get out of there. Now if I done mod control and B, you see that my wallpaper changes with a key binding. Now mod control P will pull up a DMENU script, which is reading my bookmarks file in my config file. So let's say I wanted to go to, I don't know, suckless.org. And that's going to open up on tag 9 because it's going to use Firefox. So if we go to DWM and then go to patches, there's a few patches that I like to install, or that I like to add to my DWM. The first one I like to install is attach aside, because I don't really care for the new windows that I spawn to be the master. Generally, the way I work, I want my first window that I open on there, I know I'm going to want it because I'm going to have 2 or 3 different things, and the first thing I open is going to be usually the most important. That's just the way my brain works. So I'm going to call this. So I'm going to click on attach aside, and I'm going to click on this one. Now what I like to do, I just like to highlight the address here. I'll copy that, get a terminal up, and then I'll do wget and then shift and insert, and that will give me my patch. So I want to move that into suckless DWM 6.2. And now you see that I have the attach aside diff in my in my DWM folder here. So to patch that, I want to do patch-p1 less than symbol into, and I want that to be DWM-attach aside yada 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 .diff. And it says everything succeeded. So now I want to do make, and everything made properly. So if I close everything out with mod and X, mod shift Q, log out, and then if I go back to tag 9, mod W to start Firefox, and then open a terminal, I have it's attaching on the stack side instead of the master side. So we know the patch did work, it's applied, and it's everything's good. So since we're done with that one, let's go back to the Suckless website, and let's go to DWM patches, and let's add some gaps. As useless as they may be, let's add useless gaps. We're going to do the useless gap 6.2. So let's patch-p1 DWM useless gap. All right, let's get rid of this. So now let's make. And you see that did not work because we have undeclared and undeclared stuff. So first thing we need to do, let's try to fix it. So let's remove config.h. And let's run make again. And that worked. You see, I'm really glad that happened, so I could show that on camera, because if you had made all of your customizations in config.h and then tried to add a patch like gaps or something, you would have had to remove config.h to apply that, to have that patch applied, and you would have lost all of your key bindings and stuff like that. So I'm really glad that happened, so I can show it, because now you see you have config.h was regenerated. So now let's log out. Let's start X. And now we have gaps. So that's about all I've got for today. I just kind of wanted to show some initial setup and configuration on DWM in Debian. Because if you notice, I did not run sudo make install at all today, because that's really not the Debian way to do it. So, I mean, the customization and everything is much the same on Debian as it is on Arch or on Void or whatever other minimalist distro that you want to run. But it's just my choice of what I like to run. I like Debian a little better than the others. So with that said, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Like, share, and subscribe.